Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today I'm looking at a very interesting electric train by Bachmann. Right, fair warning, today's model is an incredibly unusual one. And I have to admit, when I first saw this for sale, I had never seen or even heard of one of these before. But when I saw how odd it looked, I thought, yeah, I'm going to get one of these, it needs to be reviewed. That and the fact that it was massively reduced in price, that might have had something to do with it. But anyway, what we're looking at is this. It looks like an American school bus or something, but it's not. It's a German electric train from the early 1900s. It's made by Lilput, which is a Bachmann brand, and this is known as an Accumulator Railcar. And that basically means it's an electric railcar which is powered by batteries. It doesn't pick up power from overhead lines, which again is unusual. I don't think I've got anything else like that in the collection. So, I can't find this currently listed on Bachmann's website, but according to the retailers that do have this, the full RRP is insanely expensive. So the price of this is £354.78, and most of the retailers I can find around here are selling this for around £250 or possibly a little bit more. Well, I bought this from TMC, the model centre, for £177.40. A lot of money, yes, but considerably less than this normally costs. So that's another reason why I decided to buy this. So not sure what to expect. Lilput stuff that I've looked at in the past has been amazing. So hopefully this will be as well, but I have no idea. So let's experience this, the German railcar, which is powered by batteries. And other than that, this is going to be a journey of discovery. So let's get started. Alright, so many questions about this thing. First of all, how does the model work? Where is the mechanism? It's not obvious to me that any of these wheels are driven on the front, but I believe this is a working model. Second of all, this is so incredibly expensive at the full price. It's a hair over 350 quid. That makes each of the three vehicles in this worth over 100 at the full price. So what kind of features is it going to have to justify all of that? It's quite exciting reviewing a model that I've not had any experience of before. Anyway, let me show you the end of the box, and this is going to go badly because people have been telling me I need to try and pronounce these things. It's against my better judgment, but I'll have a go. So, Aku, I told you this is a bad idea, but the people wanted it, bless me. Accumulator Wagon, 3 T-League, ETA 178051, I'm alright with numbers. DB Epoch 3, so that means it's Era 3. And fortunately, that is really all there is to read on the box, thank goodness for that. So, let's open this up, and this will be my first time looking at one of these in the flesh, so let's see. Slide it out. Very Bachmann-y packaging, I think. There we go, nothing else in the box. And we've got quite a lot. So yeah, 3 vehicles. It looks like we've got a centre coach here, and then the 2 presumably end cars. And let's see what else we've got in here. Hopefully the instructions will have some info. Oh man, is this going to be in German? Alright, I'm not reading the whole manual in German, but we can certainly look at the diagrams. So there you can see how they connect up. Looks like there is some sort of electrical connection between the 3 vehicles, so that suggests lighting and such, doesn't it? So have a look at the diagrams. I'm going to skip through this reasonably quickly, just in case there is an English section. But yeah, there's lots of diagrams here. I can see a speaker in there. Still not seen any mechanism yet though. Ah, here's an English section. Okay, information on the original. Excellent. Feel free to pause and read that if you'd like to. Here below it says that the 3 cars are packaged separately, but they have to be put together. Yeah, I think that's fairly obvious. They're connected mechanically and electrically by the couplings, coupling the units. I'll read all this in more detail off camera, but it looks like you have to plug them into each other, and then there's perhaps a cover that snaps over the couplings to keep them together. Interior lighting function, very nice. And there is a switch by the looks of it, which allows you to control that. Looking after the model, So this looks like a bit about basic maintenance, and aha, here's the powered bogie. Looks like it's at the end of one of the end cars. Opening the vehicles, interesting. Apparently the railcar only needs to be opened for the retrofitting of a decoder or to exchange the motor. I think I will do that though, just to look at the mechanism. You can install a loudspeaker. It looks as though there is a position for that to go into, but none provided. Interesting. Blimey, that's a lot of money for it not to have a speaker. Assembly of an additional coupling. Okay, well, I don't think I'll need to couple this up to anything. AC, don't need to bother with that. Circuit diagram, that's pretty cool. There's a lot of detail here. And then nothing much on the back. And then what's this then? Oh, it's a parts diagram. Very nice. So a list of the parts. Looks like we've got some detail pieces, the bodies, the chassis, suspension springs and axle boxes. All right, anything on the back? Even more details. Oh, and there's a little sneak peek of the motor there, which appears to have a little flywheel built into the worm drive there. All right, well, we'll get a closer look at all of these parts on the model itself. So with that, here it comes, and I love the look of this thing. The livery is awesome. All right, lift to the top of this. Is it stuck down? Yep, it's stuck down. Hang on. Right. So, accessories first as usual then. So let's have a look at these. Right, so we've got sort of sprung NEM pockets, which you can fit onto the ends if you want. I don't think I will do. We've got the plastic parts here. Those I recognise as the clips that go over the couplings to hold those together. And then there's a sprue with some other detail parts on it. Looks like some sort of pipe work, that kind of thing, that you can fit if you want. Okay, let's have a look at this then. Very interesting. Let's go for this top one first. I'm going to handle it carefully just in case it's fragile. Oh, what a beauty this is. I mean, it's frightfully expensive, but it is beautifully presented. There seems to be a lot of detail on this, a lot of decoration as well, which we'll look at later on. And here's the underframe. Strange, strange thing. So we've got a bogie at the end here. I assume this will be powered on the opposite unit. And then we've got just a rolling single axle at the back there, which seems to be fixed in place. And there's the first look at the coupling on the back, which has got, goodness, lots and lots of pins, maybe 7 or 8 pins on there, and it's kinematic. So lots and lots of connections between the three vehicles. Let's look at the different unit next then. So this is the centre coach, or the centre car. I don't know if you want to call it a coach. Gosh, yeah, I do like the look of this thing. So underneath we've got, oh, I thought they were powered for a second. No, they're not. They're still free to roll. We've got a male connector here with the pins on it, and then a female connector on the other end with the sockets on it. So you can only couple this up in one way by the looks of things. Yeah, again, very, very detailed piece. Let's have a look at the final unit then. This is going to be the one with the motor in, hopefully. Otherwise I'm stuck. And here this is, and yeah, there's a fair bit of weight to this. Looking underneath though, it's got rubber traction tyres. Why is that necessary? I don't think this is going to be hauling much, is it? I mean, it's not going to be hauling anything besides the other two vehicles. So yeah, not a fan of traction tyres. They cause all sorts of trouble, but they should be alright for today. And then yeah, this vehicle seems to be detailed pretty similarly to the first one. So, a very new experience. I'll try and hold these together, but it probably will take a bit of care. Well, that's about the best I can do then. So yeah, how about that? How incredibly odd is that? I cannot wait to see what this is like. I suppose then I should put these together next and film them all up close when they're coupled together. I think that would be the best look. So what we'll do is we'll have a bit of background on these in real life, because if you're anything like me, you'll be very interested to hear what these are all about. Then I will attempt the coupling, and then we'll take a close look. So it should be fun. Let's get going. So like I said at the start, an accumulator railcar is an electric train that relies on rechargeable batteries for power, rather than picking it up from overhead lines or the track. These accumulators were designed by Gustav Whitfield, and the first series of these Whitfield railcars was introduced as early as 1909, and they were used on the German Federal Railways for many years actually, until the 1960s. The bonnets at either end of the train are reminiscent of those on rail vehicles or maybe even road vehicles where the engines would be kept. But here they were for the batteries, which had to be kept away from passengers to avoid safety issues with the battery acids, etc. Following the First World War, many of these trains were transferred to the new Polish State Railway, and then after the Second World War, the vehicles were pretty long in the tooth, but rather than being withdrawn, they were refurbished, and this is what we see represented in this model. The ETA 178 was one of the refurbished designs. Unfortunately, not one of these vehicles has survived into preservation in Germany, although one of the Polish examples still exists today. Sadly though, due to damaged battery cells, it can't be run under its own power, it can only be rolled along. Alright, time for me to have a go at coupling these together then. So I've laid them out in the right formation, and thanks to the use of these male and female connectors, there's only actually one possible combination for these, so I'm hoping it will be quite foolproof, but we shall see. So let me start by coupling them together with these multi-pin connectors. So I think that's it. They just push together, they don't clip or anything yet. Obviously I'll have to put those covers on to do that. So they just slide together, and that does seem to have worked. I suppose if you wanted to be lazy you could leave it at that, but then the pins are at risk of being damaged, I think. So I've got these little clips, and by the looks of it they're just going to snap over. So let's see if that works. They seem to be symmetrical, so I'm hoping I can just put them on either way, but we'll find out. Well, there we go, and there was no satisfying snap. And it does look like they're going to be easy to take off again, which is good, but they should at the very least keep these together. So excellent work, nice and secure. Yeah, and I suppose they look quite a bit better as well. Obviously quite large and chunky looking, but to say there's about 8 or so connections in there, not too bad. Right, I'll weigh these and we'll take a close look. So here it is, a close look for you at the Bachmann / Lilput Accumulator Railcar from Germany. Oh, I love this thing. Look how cool this looks. It is indeed pretty detailed. Yeah, there is a fair bit of complexity here, and it's also very, very well built. Yeah, the build quality is noticeably very, very high. On the other hand though, this is not worth over £350. It is detailed, it is complex, but it's not that detailed or complex. I don't think it justifies that price. That's another Bachmann fantasy price, if you ask me. However, at some of the retailers, this is sold for about £100 off the RRP, 250, something like that. I have to say that's pretty much about right for this. It's obviously a lot of money, but you do get quite a lot for your money. I would say that seems pretty fair. The price I paid of £177.40, yeah, I think that's a bargain because this is real top stuff. But let's jump into this. First of all, let's talk about the construction. And yeah, this is quite plasticky. So the bodies, as you'd probably expect, they seem to be plastic. The underframes, the chassis, these are plastic as well. The chassis for the driving bogie, that is probably going to be die cast, but I don't expect there's much more metal besides that on board. And you can tell that because this whole set is incredibly light. So the power car on its own is just 120 grams, which is not a lot. The whole lot comes in at 269 grams. That means that the Hornby J50, the small tank engine, is actually heavier than this entire train. So yeah, you're not paying for much in the way of build materials. The decoration though is absolutely insane. There's a lot of complexity here. First of all, the finish is excellent. I like the satin finish to the bodies. That looks nice and realistic. And you've got the window frames, which are separately painted into this cream colour, which matches the banding going across the bodywork. All of this is done excellently, as you can see. We've got the bonnets at either end, which have been picked out in the silver, just like the roofs have. And then on the side of the bodies, we've got loads and loads of decoration. You've got the DB logo on there, some print work. I wonder why some of that appears to be upside down. That's quite interesting, isn't it? And then on the chassis of each unit, actually, there are tons of different prints. Look at this. It's actually quite amazing how much is on here. So decoration, really, really impressive. Here's a look at the ends. More printing on the ends, as you can see, more lining too. In terms of detail, it's a bit of a mixed bag. There's lots of separate parts and details, but there's a few features that I was surprised to see missing, given how much this costs. So the buffers, for instance, these are made of metal, but they're not sprung. You know, quite happy not to see sprung buffers on a model, but when one costs this much, I'm quite surprised to see those not fitted. Here's a look at the front. We've got what look like little horns either side of the central window. Those are separately fitted. I was wondering what these parts were. Very fine separate parts. What are they? They almost look like wing mirrors or something, but obviously the driver wouldn't be able to see those if those were mirrors, so yeah, I don't know. And then we've got the wiper on the front window. Again, that's not a separate part, that's just moulded into the glazing piece and then painted. So quite a bit of simplicity here, and that continues on the interiors too. There are some seats depicted on the models, but there's no real detail to them, and there's really nothing inside here that's been picked out and painted. Same with the cab interiors actually. There are controls moulded into the model, but none of it's painted or picked out. Again, for 350 quid, over 350 quid at the full price, I think you'd expect better than that. On the outside of the model though, the complexity certainly is there. We've got these handrails which are wire and separately fitted, and so are these steps. Yeah, just behind the bonnets at either end, there are separately fitted steps. They look good. Each door has a wire handrail beside it. Again, these are all so straightly fitted, it really does look great. And then on the underframe, we've got detailed bogies where applicable, and where there isn't a bogie, the axle boxes and the springs look very, very good. Look at the moulding on these parts. And then in real life, it's actually these wheels on the centre coach that would be driven, and that's why they've got these assemblies around the axles here in model form. No gearing or anything under these. As we saw, it is the front bogie of this set that's driven, but in real life, yeah, it would be these ones here. We've got underframe detail as well. We've got these support struts to give the frame some integrity, and there's separately fitted brake rigging all down here as well, which is very, very fine. I like the look of that. On the ends, we've got lights. I'm assuming these lights are going to work. It looks like this model's got a lighting package, and they do look nice and convincing even when they're off. The roof furniture is separately fitted, so I believe each of these is a separate part, so that's certainly going to have a cost attached to it. And then in terms of the coupling, yeah, they're nice and close coupling thanks to those kinematics. The corridor connectors, for want of a better term, they're so close that they almost meet, and that looks good. The coupling's less good. I mean, yeah, not the most convincing in the world, but I suppose they're relatively low profile. They don't drop too far down towards the track. So if you're viewing the set from a slightly raised angle, then yeah, you're not going to notice those too much. And then we've got these steps and such, which are on the centre car here. Those also appear to be separately fitted, and they're very fine. So there you have it. That is a close look at Bachmann's Accumulator. I love it. I really do like it. I'm not seeing enough detail and complexity here to justify over 350 quid, and it's also a bit light and plasticky for that amount of money too. However, some of the retailers are selling this for around £250, something like that. I have to say at that price, this is a lot more like it. The detail is good, the presentation is excellent, and while the model might be a bit plasticky, the build quality itself is really, really top notch. So it's looking great. Let's now get this down onto the track. Let's give it a test. Let's watch it run. Let's test the lights. And I'll also take a look at the mechanism and see what the quality is like on the inside. Really quite excited to see this run. So let's get down onto the track and get started. So there it is down onto the track, and what an awesome looking train this is. Everything about this is just epic, isn't it? The decoration, the way it looks, the shape, the profile, the uniqueness of it as well. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I'm sorry you're so far away from it. Obviously, it's so big that I've had to back you up a fair bit today to get the whole thing in, but hopefully it will look fine. I've already filmed the initial performance test and running in, and I'll show you in a second how that went. Next, I did a brief disassembly to take a look at the mechanism, and that's what I'm going to talk about now. So first of all, the pickup situation is just okay. It's just the bogies at either end of the train that have pickups on them. This is the non-driven bogie here, and it's got wiper pickups on the wheels. And the driven bogie at the other end also has wiper pickups on the wheels. But obviously here, 2 of the wheels have rubber traction tyres on them. So we've actually only got 3 useful pickups per rail on this set. And that could have been better, I think. Only half of this train's wheels actually pick up power. On the plus side though, the 2 pickup bogies are so far apart that if one of them is going over some points, let's say, the other one is miles away from those points, so it's not going to cut out at the same time. So reliability is okay, I think. Okay, so removing the base keeper plate from the driving bogie is quite easy to do. Just 2 screws and it comes off. And underneath there is a pretty tasty die-cast chassis. Not much metal on this model, but this part is die-cast. And as you can see, there are proper bearings fitted to the driving axles, which is great. And both axles are driven as well. Now, body removal was a complete nightmare. I did refer to the instructions, and they explain that the 6 clips around the body need to be disengaged and then the chassis should lift out. Well, I followed these to the letter, except I used glue spreaders instead of a screwdriver so as not to scratch up the parts. But the body just would not release. I tried everything. I used unreasonable force, in fact. Could not get the body to come off. The best I was able to manage was just the removal of the front bonnet, which luckily does reveal the driving mechanism. But yeah, not great if you want to access the interior, of course. So there's a heavy metal weight above the driven bogie, and removing the screws from that reveals the motor. Now, based on the performance, I would say this is a high quality motor, but I don't know whether it is a 3 or a 5-pole motor. It does also have that flywheel built into the worm drive, as you can see. So yeah, this has got a flywheel. That's good to see. Here are the headlight LEDs as well. You've got separate LEDs for the head and tail lights. You'll see this in action in just a second. Right, so the decoder socket is not in the same unit as the driving car, which is frustrating because this is one of the reasons why there's so many wires going between each unit. But the bonnet at either end of this unit is the only place where you can put tech like that where it won't be visible through the windows. So I do appreciate that. I had the same problem getting the body off. Again, I followed the instructions. The body was just not shifting. It wasn't even close to shifting. So in the end, I just pulled the bonnet off again, and this gives you somewhat decent access to the 21-pin DCC decoder socket there. If I pull the speaker enclosure away, I think you would be able to get access to that and put a decoder in, but it wouldn't be that easy. Again, if the full body came off, this would be a lot simpler. And here is where you can put a speaker in. Again, though, no pre-fitted speaker. Given how expensive this was, that is quite a surprise, I think. And then underneath this unit, there is also the light switch, and this is what you can use to control the interior lighting. So if you don't want those on for any reason, you can switch those off, even on analog, which is good. And then the back-to-back gauging is nice and consistent at 14.2 to 14.3 millimeters back-to-back, which is just comfortably below the standard. So yeah, the quality of the mechanism is really good. Accessibility for servicing is fine, actually. Yeah, no big issue with that. But removing the bodies is an absolute pain, and of course you do need to do that if you want to fit crew and such. Also, removing these bonnets is fine and dandy, but it does catch on these detailed parts on the front, and I have lost a horn, I believe, on the back end here. So yeah, that's not the best. Otherwise though, the mechanism is pretty good. So with that, let's jump back in time and let me show you that initial performance test. Okay, moment of truth. I've been so looking forward to seeing this thing run. Let's give it its first ever try. So, set direction. Is it going to work? Hopefully so. Here we go. Right, so yeah, the last Lilput Loco I reviewed was also an incredible runner. So this isn't much of a surprise, but that was gorgeous. What a gorgeous, gorgeous first run. Took off beautifully, smoothly. It's also incredibly silent, or well, entirely silent, I would say. Looks wonderful. Okay, lighting. We've got all 3 of the front-facing lights on white in forwards direction, nice warm white LED, and then in reverse, the 2 tail lights at the very front come on, and those are red, of course. Yeah, that looks lovely. Now, in terms of the interior, Yeah, I am seeing the lights come on inside there, but they're not the brightest in the world. And that's partly because my lights in here are quite bright. So what I think I'll do is I will dip the lights in the main room and we'll do some more running, maybe at high speed, because obviously I'm on analog. The faster you run the loco, the brighter the lights. But let me dim the lights now and we'll give that a try. Okay, that's a little bit darker. Let's see, can we see the lighting better now? Yeah, it's quite good actually. Let's go past a bit quicker. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, it's not over the top or anything, but it's certainly there. Maybe I'll cut the lights even more. There you go, complete blackness. Okay, yeah, you can see it better now, hopefully. Does that come through on camera? Yeah, I think it does. So it's all working, all the connections are working, all of the lights are working, and also it's evenly lit on the inside too, I've noticed. You've not just got bright spots here and there. So there must be plenty of LEDs across the roofs of each of the coaches so that you've got nice even lighting throughout, and you really do, so that's great. Okay, let's bring the lights back on then and let's talk more about performance. Right, so yeah, this has been such a lovely performer so far. Let me show you what the gearing's like. So here it comes at 50% speed, so half power. Here we go. Yeah, sensibly geared, sensibly geared. You wouldn't imagine this thing flying along at hundreds of miles per hour. Yeah, you know, it's a passenger train. It's not going to be snail's pace either. Let's see what kind of speed this has got at the top end. Ready? Let's see. Yeah, even that's not over the top, but it does also have a good range of speeds. Right, let's see what the crawl's like then. How is this at the very slowest speed? Here we go. Let's turn this up gradually until it starts to move. Oh, a bit of a twitch. There we go. So it's pretty slow, but it's also quite coggy. I'll slow it down. No, that's about as slow as it's going, and yeah, it is a little bit cocky there. Now, this hasn't been running yet, and I will run this in fully before I give this a score for performance, but right now, yeah, that's not crawling like a £350 model. All the other aspects of the performance are fantastic. I mean, the lighting, the smoothness, the quietness, the speed, yeah, that's all absolutely bang on. At the moment, for fine adjustment, this loco's not the best. But it's okay, certainly okay. Right, well, that's it then. Let's run this in and let's see how this gets on around the track. Here we go at 50. Oh, blimey, it looks great on the curves. What a sight this is. I have really never seen anything like this before. And like I say, it was such a surprise when I saw this for sale because I never knew anything like this existed. If I had seen this for sale before, I'd forgotten all about it. So yeah, a delightfully interesting and unique piece of railway history, I suppose, German railway history. It works incredibly well, looks great, and the history of these is really interesting. If you can find your way onto German Wikipedia and translate the pages into English, very interesting things to read about. And to be able to own one in model form is absolutely awesome. Also, the price I paid, 170 odd quid, well worth it, absolutely well worth it. For about the price of your typical new Accura scale diesel, yeah, this is beautifully complex, very well built, great performing. Everything seems really good about this. So yeah, personally, very, very happy. And if you're interested in something like this, I mean, if you're in the UK, chances are it's not going to really fit in with the rest of your layout. I believe it's HO scale. It's obviously German, not British. But as an interesting piece that is going to draw attention, you can't go wrong with this. This will do exactly that. And if you are in Germany, hello, I'm sorry for the way I pronounced words from your language earlier, then yeah, I think I could recommend this to you. Obviously, most European models are quite on the expensive side, but at least in this case, you do seem to get what you pay for. Although I'm not sure I would recommend spending £350 for this, but hopefully most of the retailers in Germany and Europe also have similar discounts, fingers crossed. But yeah, fantastic. Let me run this in then, 30 minutes forwards, 30 minutes backwards, then I'll come back and we'll do a bit more testing and we'll see if that slow speed performance is any better. Alright folks, that is running in complete, and yeah, I have to say, and you can probably tell it as well, this is just a delightful performer. Really, really lovely, nice and smooth. It's been running just about an hour now, and it's never slowed down that I've noticed. It's never derailed, it's never stuttered, despite the relatively limited number of pickups. So once again, we've got another Lilput loco that is running fantastically. Really, really good. And I still love the way this looks. It is completely unique, isn't it? And not just unique to my collection either. I can't imagine there's an awful lot else in real life that looks quite like this. And in real life now, in fact, there is only one of these still in existence. So yeah, unique across the board, I would say. Okay, so the crawl was okay before, but not very smooth, and we have seen other models go much slower. Now that this is fully warmed up and running, is it any better? Let's see. Turning this up slowly. Oh, that might have been my fault. Let's try again. Might have gone a bit quick. Okay. So yeah, jerking forwards. Pretty coggy actually to say it's got a flywheel. I don't know whether it's a 3 or a 5 pole motor in here. I don't think it's a cordless. Other direction. Yeah, so not the best at these slow speeds. And I suppose that kind of makes sense because the mechanism really isn't a big thing. I mean, it's the whole thing is like contained in this bit here. So I don't know, maybe if they had have put it in the centre coach, perhaps that would have given them more space to use a better motor, etc. But then if they wanted more than one geared axle, obviously that would have been a nightmare and the interior would probably have been compromised. So I think they probably made the right call. And like I say, generally the performance is just fantastic, but not so much at these slow speeds. So that I have to recognise. But yeah, it's beautiful, really, really lovely. I'm not going to try and couple this up to anything because I don't think there's much point. I don't know that they would even ever couple up to anything in real life. Nice that you've got the option. I don't think I'm going to do that. So with that, let's enjoy this running and I'll show you what else I've got on the line. Right, so my question was, what on earth do I run next to this? I don't have anything else even remotely like it. And I could be wrong, but I don't even think I've got any other battery-powered trains. Battery-powered in real life, obviously, not in model form. So I've gone with some EMUs. This is a Hornby, I don't know. Comment down below if you can guess which EMU this is. And I'll secretly look it up after I've finished filming, and then I'll know the answer. But yeah, obviously, today's model is not actually an EMU. It's not really a multiple unit. I think only one of the units is driven on mine, in real life, obviously. Yeah, an EMU is the closest I've got. On the inside line, I've put the Helgen Metropolitan Bobo. Again, this is an electric loco, but not a battery-powered one. This did pick up power from the third rail, so again, not quite the same, but in the same kind of vein. Alright, and yeah, I would say the performance hasn't really changed from when I ran this in, but as you can see, it's still beautifully smooth. So yeah, I love this thing. I really do enjoy it. I would call it a model railway oddity, at least for me, who's in England. You know, I suppose if you model early Germany or something, then yeah, it's probably less of an oddity. For you, it would probably look more at home. But yeah, for me, this is just a fascinating model. So glad I was able to get one of these. And it's really lucky that TMC discounted it as they did, because I don't think I would have bought one if the price had have stayed at £250 plus. But for what I paid, I'm really, really happy with this. It's a beautiful model, really nicely painted. The detail looks great. In fact, everything about this is decent. I've really enjoyed looking at this today. It's not the most detailed model in the world. The performance isn't the greatest I've ever seen. I've got models that are more serviceable than this, models with more features. I think that's quite surprising given how much this cost, but ignoring the full price, I really can't complain too much about this. I have to admit that I love the thing, and I just find it genuinely so interesting. So I've really enjoyed this, and I'm glad that it works as well as it does, with no issues or any instability or anything like that. Really, really good. So yeah, what an enjoyable train pack. Let's have some ratings then for this Accumulator Railcar set. Level of detail I've given 4 stars, so there's loads of great stuff on this model. I think one of the best aspects of it is the decoration, tons of printed detail, all done to high standards as well. We've got lots of small parts, the underframes are particularly impressive, we've got the handrails around the doors, the ends of the model look great as well. We've also got the full suite of lighting, both on the outside and the inside. On the downside though, it's missing some basic features such as sprung buffers. Happy to see those missed out if the price reflects that, but that really isn't the case here. And the interior is pretty disappointing. There's a tiny bit of detail in there, but none of it is painted, and there's really no definition in that detail either. I think given the fact that they've gone to all of the expense and trouble of fitting interior lights to this set, it's a real pity that those lights really aren't illuminating anything. So a bit more detail on the interior would have really elevated this and made this more worth the money, I would have said. Performance is also 4 star, it's a marvellous performer. It's perfectly reliable on the track despite the pretty weird wheel configuration. No issues over curves and points or anything like that, maintains a constant speed. It's geared sensibly as well, but at the slower speeds it's just not the best performer in the world. I've seen locos that cost a third of this that run better than this. It's not a problem at all, it's not a terrible crawl, but this is an expensive set, so I am treating it with high expectations. Pulling power, well, I didn't set up the NEM couplings on this because I didn't see the point. Obviously it's not really supposed to be coupled up to anything. It can couple up to stuff, and I think the pulling power would be okay because it does have rubber traction tyres. Otherwise though, it's a non-issue. This is a standalone set for the most part. Mechanism then, I've given 3 star, which I suppose is a little bit on the low side because there are some quality features here. So it's got the proper bearings on the axles, it seems to have a good quality motor with a flywheel on it, and the chassis design and such does seem to be competent. However, on the downside, because of the light weight of the loco, I suppose, it has traction tyres fitted, rubber tyres. Not keen on that. I mean, yeah, it's a light loco, but it really doesn't need them, I don't think. Certainly not just to haul these 3 units, and it's also not great for accessibility. I did follow the instructions in terms of removing the bodies, and it just wasn't happening. I could not get them off without seriously damaging the models. So I've knocked it down a bit for that. Fortunately, you can get the bonnets off these, which does give you access to the motor and just about gives you access to the DCC decoder socket. But it is going to be a pain to fit a decoder in this because you've not got great access, and if you wanted to fit crew or passengers or add detail to the interior, I don't know what to tell you. I could not find a way to get the bodies off of this thing. If you do know how to do it, please do let me know down in the comments. That leads me on to quality then, which I've given 4 star. Now on the plus side, as I've been saying, the build quality is fantastic. Lots of small parts on this model, but they've all been fitted perfectly. I didn't see any glue marks, and I don't think I saw any issues in the decoration either, so that's great. Nice good quality finish as well. On the downside, quite plasticky. It's lightweight. Die-cast chassis on these units would have been really nice to see. Instead, you find yourself unpacking this extremely expensive pack and thinking, blimey, you don't get a lot for your money, do you? And that leads us on to value for money then, which is quite a tricky one for me to assess. So right off the bat, the price I paid of £177.40 was fantastic. That is such a good bargain. I would give that 5 star. The full price though of £354.78 seems like a complete rip-off. You'd expect more detail on the interior, you'd expect a better designed mechanism that gives you better access, and I would expect a bit more metal construction. I mean, that is just very, very expensive for what you get here. So I've split the difference, I've given it 3 star, middle of the road. If you can find one for the right price, it is an excellent and very enjoyable model. If you pay closer to the RRP, I don't really think you get what you pay for, so do be careful with this one on price. Overall then, that is 7.30 out of 10. That's a pretty decent score, I think. A grade of D, which is unfortunate, but again, with prices as high as this, there is the expectation for the absolute best in terms of detail, performance, quality and mechanism. And while every category was decent, there's nothing outstanding enough to warrant the price, I would say. So into the logbook we go, and it is 13th place above the Ruston 88DS by Hornby and below the Bachmann New York Hudson. Yeah, a fantastic set, really glad I bought it, pleased with it for the price I paid, but don't be fooled into paying too much for this. I think that would be my message. So there you have it, the Lilput Accumulator Railcar train pack. And that's the thing, this is a complete train, isn't it? You don't have to buy rolling stock for this. You don't have to worry about what to run it with. It comes with everything you need, so that's pretty decent. And then I suppose if you do compare this against the price of a locomotive and a decent amount of rolling stock to run with it, I suppose this is a relatively cost-effective way of buying an entire train, even if you are paying 250 quid. So yeah, it's a cool model. I've really enjoyed looking at this. I hope you have as well. Please comment down below and let me know what you think about this. Have Lilput and Bachmann produced different versions of this model? Are there other manufacturers that have produced something like this? And if so, what are their models like? Please do let me know. But for now, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you found this as interesting as I did. Hopefully I'm not the only weirdo that's just fascinated by this. I'm sure not though. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Alright, cheers folks. You take care.